And good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone who's tuning in at 8 o'clock this morning. It's budget day. On the 23rd of May, new government sworn in, Modi 2.0. Massive mandate. And of course, commensurate with the mandate now, there will be some expectations. There was a sense before the election that in the 2-year run-up to the election, the Modi government had been extremely harsh, though very decisive in its economic thinking. It needed to lay out a certain direction for the economy, and it did so, even though there was more than a pinch at times on the common man. Now there is a sense and a feeling that with such large numbers, there are only two ways the story can go. One, the government continues to be harsh, uses the first half of the 2.0 term to set out a further harsh course correction in the Indian economy. Politically, it can afford to do so, and that's why there is a sense of apprehension. There is a sense of fear. Wherever I've gone, Delhi and Mumbai over the last few days, there's been a looming fear on issues. A looming fear on whether the inheritance tax, for example, or the estate tax will make a comeback. A looming fear on tax rates. Everyone says the government should seek more compliance rather than be tougher on the existing taxpayer. We don't know where this will go. But then there is also the other sense. The other sense is that with this kind of a mandate with him, the Prime Minister can afford to be generous. And he can tell the Finance Minister to loosen the purse strings a little for the common man. Do things that will actually encourage both investment, domestic investment and foreign investment. And everyone knows the government has the right steps to be able to do that. The question is, these things are always not written or scripted in stone. And hence, right at the start, I want to remind you that just after taking over in 2014, ahead of the first ever budget of the Modi government, the Prime Minister had said then, and I quote, "I need to take some harsh decisions and administer some bitter medicine in order to resuscitate this patient." The patient being the Indian economy. Over the last 5-year tenure, he's brought in bold reforms, demonetization, GST, bankruptcy code. Often getting the political consensus for this has not been easy, but he's gone and in a rugged way, he's kept moving nonetheless. 1 year later, as the Modi government begins the second innings, I'd like to begin by saying expectations this time are higher. The common man wants things now. He wants relief from taxes. The common man wants relief from taxes. India Inc. wants further ease of doing business. Farmers want the promise of double income delivered. And all of this needs to come at a time when India needs fiscal consolidation. So the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, who's taking this challenge head on, let me tell you, this balancing act is not going to be easy. It's a mega budget, but it's not going to be easy. To lay the expectations, and in the run-up to 11 o'clock, I have with me a great panel. I have with me in the studio. First of all, good morning, everyone. MR, I've just given this rather long introduction because you're not going to let me speak after this. But MR Venkatesh, Ratan Sharda, Vishal Sharma, it's a welcome to our studio here. Thank you so much for coming in. And also with us, Sanjeev Srivastav, Ravi. I'm going to introduce the experts now. Shogato, who's the Chief Economist of Axis Bank. It's a real pleasure to have you in our studio. Brinda Jagirdar, economist in our Mumbai studio. Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you. Looking forward now, this budget. Let's just lay the expectations to start with. Emma, to start with you. Broadly, this budget will have to revive the economy. It has to revitalize the rural sector. It has to renew the push for better infrastructure. It's not just a 1-year agenda budget, in my view. It's more than that, because it will encapsulate the overall tone, tenor, and I think the vision of the Modi government for the next 5 years.
See, if you want to exactly know the mind of the finance minister or the government, you go back to yesterday's economic survey, where a part of it was revealed when the chief economic advisor tells us that there's going to be a blueprint for a 5 trillion economy. And the words that he has used is a tectonic shift from the Anglo-Saxon thinking to an open sky or open blue sky model, where he says we will try to factor in a model that suits India's best interests.
Okay.
And that's going to come from investment and savings. It's going to be an investment-led, savings-led model. That's the big picture that I get it from the economic survey. Now, of course, the economic survey did not tell us how it is being done and how it will go about, how they go about it. Of course, that has to be left to the budget. And I think this is going to be a big headline tomorrow morning as to how Nirmala Sitharaman brings about the nuts and bolts of effectuating this strategy.
What would that be? If Shaukat, I can ask you this, what would that be? If you would have a free run on this, you have to revive growth, you have to do so without cutting corners on fiscal prudence. But how do we maintain this balance? Firstly, the broad picture. Is it easy for Mr. Modi or Nirmala Sitharaman? The election is over. Now come the brass tacks. Everyone's talking about a downturn in the economy. So picture politically may be rosy, but economically it's not.
No, it's not. So I think, exactly as you mentioned, there are so many moving parts in this entire budget exercise. Balancing these is really incredibly difficult. So the first thing is growth, as you mentioned. I think, in the global system, growth is weak. India is being affected. Growth is spilling over. So I think growth is a must. I think now, I'm normally a fiscal prudence man, but at this point in time, I think it is wise for them to take a little bit of a risk.
Like what? What do you mean?
So, I think they should spend more.
Yep.
I think they should spend more.
Spend more.
Spend more. Spend more. So even if the fiscal deficit, I don't think they will. I think this government's
What do you
DNA
mean by spend more?
So
Spend more where?
spend more on giving the households tax exemptions, giving.
So you're
corporates-
saying go ahead for a little slippage of fiscal deficit this time.
Exactly that.
Let there be fiscal slippage where the government can maintain it and you have the political numbers to sustain it.
That's right.
What
You're
about the rest of the world, Ajay? Are they going to be happy with that? Ajay Bagga is executive chairman of OPC Asset Solutions, a well-known name in the finance sector. Ajay, what is the key word for you in this budget?
Well, Arnab, the big thing that we need, we shouldn't suffer from the syndrome of it's not invented here, we are doing something new. Any country that has progressed on the basis of investments and high credit, high levels of financial growth in the economy, providing credit. Credit is the oxygen. Liquidity is the oxygen for the financial system, for the economy.
Yeah.
We have constrained it for the last 3-4 years because of the bank's problem. So what I would like to hear, one, I agree with Shogato, you have to spend more. That's called pump priming in the classical sense. Second, you have to make sure that the growth impetus is unleashed. How do you unleash that? All that you mentioned in your opening speech, Arnav. Easier doing business. There is very little ease of doing business. Hoteliers need 30 approvals. Real estate needs 46 approvals. Second is liquidity. The government has been in denial on the NBFC crisis. From September, we have not had liquidity flowing that well in the economy. That is very critical. Yesterday, at least the economic survey said, yes, NBFC, there is a problem. RBI governor has agreed. Hopefully, there will be some solution. I'm not saying privatize the losses for the guys who were, privately owned and they took all the profits and now we should privatize. I'm not asking for that, but you have to save the system. You have to, and I think you really set the tone, Arnab, with that quote of yours, politically rosy, economically not so rosy. So you have won the election. Based in such a poor economic scenario, you got such a huge mandate because people have hope. Live up to that hope. Make it easier to function. Give tax cuts to the middle class. The rural wage is not increasing. It's good you will put 85,000 crores directly into the farmer's pocket, but the landless laborers are still there. Labor reform, land reform. And right now you have political capital on now. There is political capital available. 2 years of bitter pill can be taken in terms of taking politically difficult decisions. They say Rajasthan government did labor reform and they lost. So why should any government do that? I think that's a very perverse logic. There might have been other reasons for Rajasthan.
Yeah,
But you need to do labor, you need to do land.
इनकम बढ़ेगी और जो प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी लोग जितनी ज़्यादा मैक्सिमम करेंगे उनके बिजनेस ग्रोथ के लिए बहुत इम्पैक्टफुल है.
Sorry, I was hearing you, but there's some other audio that's begun to come in. Can we just correct that? Sorry, Ajay, are you there? Ajay, are you there?
Yes, I'm there, Arnab. I'm
Yeah,
there.
no, I was hearing you, and
Yes,
then
I'm
some
there.
other audio came in, so I was just checking on that. Please, no, you were going ahead. I have Nasir
I
also with me today, and Nasir is managing partner of Flexi Capital LLP. Nasir, you know, can we broad picture first, and I also want to then go into a bit of brass tacks on this. No, we will take Sanjeev Sanyal's soundbite later. I'm just telling my production crew we will take his soundbite later, and we can cut to it. But I'm continuing for the moment, and I'm asking Nasir out here that Nasir, broad picture, politically fantastic, economically situation seems very nervous, and that would be an understatement. Also, I want to comment from you on what my friend Ajay said there, that truly is the government even realizing that there is an NBFC crisis? Before the elections, you know, I can understand you don't want to intervene in anything very controversial. But now the elections are over. There is a genuine lack of liquidity in the market. Is the government going to do something in this budget?
Yeah. Arnab, firstly, good morning to all of you. It's a real pleasure for me to be on your show. And just to answer both your questions, Arnab, here's where I start with. I think as far as the economy is concerned, Arnab, we are in a, we have a twin challenge issue, which is one is lowest savings rates, savings, and coupled with that is the lowest point of consumption today. I mean, if you see both savings and consumption, they're the lowest in the economy as we speak. Now that comes in with its own set of challenges, Arnab. Obviously, the first fact is that how does one address both these issues? Because this is what will actually ensure that our economy, it needs clearly a kickstart, a jump start. And obviously, there is enough amount of nervousness, I must tell you, I must admit to you. But I do see some good intention as far as the government is concerned, because yesterday if you see the blueprints of the economic survey, it does mention all of these issues that you've just raised. It talks about the fact that we need to mop up interest as far as savings is concerned. So here are my solutions, Arnab, since you've asked that. And as far as the NBFC crisis is concerned, they've also addressed that. They've said that, look, there seems to be some amount of liquidity issue which is currently being faced. Are we on the roadmap to ensure that we can address some of those issues? Now, here are my points. My first point is very simple. You need to address infrastructure, you need to address housing, because housing is also a very important integral part of this. Number 3, very, very important, is the agrarian distress, the agriculture sector. If you look at all these 3, as far as the first one is concerned, which is housing, for example, there has been enough deductions which was given on the principal side, where you had the earlier budgets had given a 200,000 interest deduction. That, in my opinion, should be increased, Arnab, so that you have enough money going in to the housing sector, thereby ensuring people start picking up houses immediately and boost the affordable housing sector, which will have a multiplier effect on cement, iron and steel, thereby leading to job creation. So there is one example of how one can create job opportunities, and that's the current issue. We are facing an all-time high job loss situation in the economy right now, and we need to mop up that, we need to prop up that. Number 2, I think I heard.
So
what
would you do specifically? Sorry to intervene, but then what would you do specifically on 2 or 3 key things? What would you waive off? What would you increase? For example, I want to draw you in on brass tacks. Would you, for example, would you waive off long-term capital gains tax exemption for equity-oriented schemes? Would you do things like that? Would you increase wealth tax?
Arnab,
because the elections are over, you can
Arnab,
take those steps
question
now.
Again, I must tell you. So here, Sure. So Arnab, I'll tell you, as far as the dividend, the long-term capital gains tax is concerned on equity, frankly speaking, we as bankers have been saying this repeatedly, that it was a double-edged sword. It was not meant to be done. I think that should be removed as we speak, because the only asset class which was delivering returns in this country over the last 5 to 7 years was equity.
Yeah.
And you've gone and actually taxed those. So that's a great point. If you ask us and our view, please remove it. Number two, I think one of the biggest challenges that we've not been able to do, again, the intention has been there. The last budget, the finance minister said it, and it's not happened, is non-tax revenues, which is basically your assetization, your land assetization of PSUs, for example. Huge amount of assets today is sitting with PSUs. We are looking at disinvestments, but they've never happened.
Who's
you can
blocked
raise
it?
a lot of money.
No, who's
without
blocked it?
thinking any of the tax issues.
Who has blocked it? Is it the bureaucracy?
So
Is it the
Arnab,
system?
obviously-
The intent has
so
been there
Arnab-
for 5 years.
Yeah, so Arnav, frankly speaking, I think it's a function of both bureaucracy and getting the right price point also. I think both we've been stuck at this. If we have a cleaner vision of saying we want to do this, for example, I can also give an example. Look what Air India. Look what happened in Air India. We have seen situations, and I can quote a large bank, and I'm sure all the panelists will agree with me, Arnab. A large bank in 2000, without naming it, actually went into a distressed situation post the subprime issue. And they actually broke up the assets between good assets and bad assets. Why? What is stopping Air India today? I want to ask you on your show, since you ask very pertinent questions to all the panelists and to the government. Verbally, I want to ask this question. Where is the challenge on Air India? Why can it not be broken up between two groups, good assets and bad assets, and then ensure that it's sold out? You will still raise money. There are so many
But
other
what
PSUs
will
that we're
the
sitting on.
bureaucrats
Huge
do
land
then?
banks
No,
that can
exactly.
be
No,
monetized.
it's a very pertinent question, and it comes to the core point between intent and execution. The big problem in this government has been in the first term between intent and execution. The intent has been there throughout. Ajay knows it, you know it, MR. Intent has been supreme, but execution has been terrible. And I think the answer could be in the fact that, people don't want to let go. For example, I mean, you were even to look at, for example, you're talking about Air India. Let me take the example of Prasar Bharati. Let me take the example of, you are talking about assetization, right? Do you know how much rests with Prasar Bharati all over the country today when media has got digitized? How much land exists with All India Radio? Whole campuses, you could build multiple stadiums on them.
Absolutely.
All India Radio, you can operate it from one room. Exactly. Sanjeev, I'm telling you, All India Radio or Doordarshan, leave alone Air India, there is vast amounts of land and assets which can be opened up.
The plan
My
is to
question
strengthen
is,
them further, by the way.
No,
AIR and DD.
no, you can strengthen it, but
Air India is an operationally profitable company. Air India is EBITDA profitable, it's positive, it's 1,500 crores profit it is making. However, when you add finance cost to it, 3,000 plus crore finance cost, 4,500 crores annually finance cost, Air India has to undergo an annual loss of 3,000 crores. Now, why were these finance costs
I don't
increased?
understand this logic of operating. Please don't give
It
me
is
this
operationally
garble
profitable.
of operating
No,
profitability.
it is EBITDA positive.
Operating profitability, but you add the finance cost.
Yes.
Who's giving the
But
finance?
who increased the
I am
finance
giving
cost?
the finance.
Finance
The
cost,
taxpayer
why
is
did-
giving the
why did
finance.
the
This
finance
is a whole
cost
lot of
increase?
rubbish.
Why did the finance cost increase?
Don't fool me.
Why did Air India?
Don't. The question is,
who are the people responsible for making Air India
Vishal.
loss
India
making?
is under a debt of 50,000 crores.
Yes, but
as of
when
now.
did this happen, sir?
And
A
you
profitable
need
company
another
was driven to the
25,000
ground.
crores
Let us
to
not
make
go down
it
to brass tacks now.
continue
Can
paying
I-
its salaries and
profitable
make it
company was
operate.
Okay, can you, Vishal, good morning. Everyone's just coming in, and we have a board member of Air India with us in the studio. His name is Zafar Islam. He's come in right now. In fact, he's sprung into the debate. We have this new technology whereby the moment you pick on issues, we get the exact right person to answer the questions. Now, there is Zafar Islam. He's BJP spokesperson and Air India board member. Zafar, now tell me, what is the problem? First of all, Air India. Second, the intent has been there for a long time, but the execution is missing. This is the charge against the BJP government. You have not moved fast enough. You have moved at a snail's pace, and you see this everywhere. You come in after the problem becomes unmanageable, like the IL&FS crisis. You come in after the IL&FS crisis, then you want to somehow taper it over, so you get Mr. Uday Kotak to head a committee to look into it, and then you move on. Everything for you amounts to the setting up of a committee. You don't want to tackle the MCI scam, so you get in prominent doctors, Devi Shetty, etc., to come into a panel. You want to outsource the solution never comes, and then you move on. You have an attention deficit disorder. And maybe it is because last 2.5 years there's been too much politics, frankly.
And Jet was typical carelessness on part of government not to interfere.
Can I just respond
when
to
it is
this,
due.
No, I don't understand. What would you have expected Jet to do? Yeah, Zafar.
No,
Yes, Zafar.
see, as far as Air India is concerned, I think it's going through the disinvestment process. The process is on, and I would not like to comment anything about the process, or for that matter, what exactly the government is intending to do here. But all I can say with conviction that it will be definitely disinvestment will happen, or some structure, we're working on multiple structure, some structure will definitely work, giving the investor demand, giving the interest of the global investors, and we have taken feedback from everyone, and now we are structuring something which will
can we just take the numbers
pass
and
the
not
muster of the global investor, and something which we are very confident.
Disinvestment.
Away from that,
It's
Air
not-
India, because I do not
don't
want
write
to, as a
down.
board member, I do not want to really jump the gun. But there are some few things which I would like to add. I heard
don't
many
take that.
people,
No, I'm not.
since I was sitting from 8 o'clock.
Yeah, carry on, please. Yeah, please.
Yeah, so the other thing which we have about the budget, in terms of expectation, and I heard my ex-colleague, Mr. Bagga, both of us have worked in the same bank, and I completely agree with him in terms of approach, what the government intention, and something which has been spelled out in our economic survey in terms of what could be the roadmap for the future. And the investment is the only thing which will actually be prioritized, and we will create a investment climate where a lot of global investors should invest in India. We have seen momentum since 2014. Quarter trillion has come in the form of FDI. Prior to that, quarter trillion had come between 2000 to 2014, but primarily that was on a brownfield project, but since 2016 at least started coming in greenfield project. But the momentum should continue. We must, through policy measures, we must through the incentive scheme, and must incentivize all the global investors to invest in India, and something which is very apparent, like for instance, I'll give you example, and this is what the government is going to follow, because if you just read the intent of the government in economic survey, they are not only focusing on the local consumption, it is a consumption-led economy, but it's an investment-led, consumption-led, is an export-oriented economy. That is something which has been spelled out, and the focus of the government is like China, like all the East Asian countries. The focus will be on export.
Zafar, can you just be, Zafar, can you just be a, can you just be a little bit more specific than that, you know? I want to know that you have set a very big target of a $5 trillion economy. I really want to know from now. I mean, let's not make speeches this morning. Let's get clearly into what you are going to do. No, you don't give me a 5-minute speech on everything that you will do, everything that you would like to do, and everything that is likely to happen in the future, and what you like and don't like. I'm not interested. I want to know, for example, how will you address the challenges on the fiscal front? I have also read the economic survey. We all have, Ratan. You know, how will you pull out the nuanced balancing act at this point of time and ensure that fiscal prudence is not compromised? Or you are then saying we need to compromise fiscal prudence for a while. Tell me a specific, maybe Brinda, you would like to come in on this. You know, let's be a little bit more specific on it. Will there be an attempt at easing the fiscal deficit or not, is the first question, because you are running on a tight leash. You have to take a decision. First, give me the headline. Are you going to do that or not? Please. Brinda, what do you think? Brinda?
I think this time it's going to be the finance minister's Draghi moment. You know, growth is the big issue. And I think all the focus will be on growth, whatever it takes.
Yeah.
And this is really the time when the government can do what it has not done so far. I mean, it had the opportunity, but it did not do. Now it can. So it's not just the ease of getting an FDI, but how do you make sure that FDI comes into the right sectors? It actually, a few $250 trillion is not good enough. We need much more. Enforcement of contract. I think that is the key now, because they've talked about judicial reforms, and if you are not able to enforce contracts, if you are not able to close disputes, and it carries on and on. Look at IBC, where it has gone. Out of the 12 cases, I think about 3 or 4 only are seeing some kind of a closure. So what we need is really clarity on judicial reforms, and the sectors that I think the government needs to focus on, because now we need to prioritize. A lot to be done, but prioritize. Agriculture, of course, construction.
No, I'm on a broad point of the fiscal deficit. You're also going into another area, Brinda.
Fiscal
I want to know that the Piyush Goyal, we're not focused on the big headline. Piyush Goyal, as interim finance minister, announced 5 months ago in his interim budget that the budget pegs the fiscal deficit at 3.4% of GDP. And he cited income support to farmers as the reason for avoiding fiscal consolidation. Now my question is, will global concerns, A, second, potential loss of investments. If I don't know how you're going to manage this. If you ease the fiscal deficit, you will have a potential loss of investments. How are you going to balance the two? Is a very straight question. Does anyone on the panel have an answer for that very specific question?
Yes.
And if you're going to revise the divestment target, if you're going to push it, where will you push it from? Where will you push it from? Where will the money come from? We do want to know.
The money will come. The money will come.
Yeah, yes.
See, the money will come by boosting investment. Investments have been falling over a period of greater than 5 years. But the government will. Let me finish. In the short term, you can expect a deterioration of the fiscal deficit. But this will be a short-term measure.
I think this bravado about investment is missing the whole story. If we find MSME, which is the key employment generator, horrible condition of credit generation, they don't get credit, their cost of credit is very high, so whom are we going to invest into? Yeah. So if we want to invest, have we invested in agriculture? We talk of farmer welfare. Have you talked of agriculture as an industry, as a commercially successful venture? Farmers don't get...
The first problem today is there is no liquidity in the rural sector. There is an NBFC crisis. There is no liquidity
in the bank. That liquidity is not being released
because
of
course it's not being released.
They created a mess by giving to big companies.
No. So which companies will do it? Do you think the banks will do it themselves?
Have NPAs,
do you think... I don't understand this logic either.
This poverty of ideas, where you will give large credits, but it will not be smaller credits.
Credits are not being given, so you can be rest assured.
So where is the bank?
So all credits have been squeezed.
Yeah, so 17 crore.
Secondly, the question of messy laws. What kind of laws we have where a person can keep on going around to various government offices, keep getting notices, even now the tax quotient to fill the targets, not going to fill the targets, because we have to accept that the revenue is not being generated, industry is not doing well, so you cannot throw inspectors on your face to get more money out of you because you are not earning money.
Sure.
So this lack of liquidity cannot be addressed by
how do you address the issue?
They have to come back to banking. RBI has to speak up. The government has to simplify
the RBI has known the issue for a long time. The RBI has known of the issue for a long time.
Fiscal deficit will slip to 4% and no hell will break. Please understand, this time you have to have a bit of giveaway on the fiscal front. You can't be a fiscal fundamentalist. Government has to step in to revive the investment cycle. To do that, it has to either give away a bit of taxes or to borrow more money and invest in infrastructure. Either way, it is good, but I will prefer the first route. Put more money in the hands of the household, cut your taxes, increase your fiscal deficit, no hell will break.
And the government had debt with 6%.
Yes. So this 3% is an artificial IMF-driven figure.
3.4%.
No, this 3% destination point is an IMF-driven figure. Hell with it. Hell with it with capital.
I don't really worry about
the employment we generated. These are questions which have to be faced. Okay. And as you said, that the rose picture may not be very rosy, but roses don't come without thorns. So if you want roses, there will be some thorns. You will have to face it in the short term. And what is, sir, 1 second. What is the thorn in the short term? It is a deterioration of the fiscal deficit. It is a price that India will have to pay. But let's pay it now.
Let me get a sense from my panelists in Delhi and from Rhythm, who's in the studio out there, what the expectation in Delhi is. The one thing that everybody agrees in Delhi now, Rhythm, is that nobody predicts anything with confidence anymore, you know. Nobody has an idea of what happens in the government. This government is quite opaque when it comes to decision making, and therefore even speculation is very, very limited, which is different from the earlier times, you know, when you could freely speculate government will do this or that. In this government, nothing leaks. Rhythm.
Absolutely, and you know, we're going to keep an eye. A very good morning to our panel, Arnab. We're going to keep an eye on what's going to happen. A quick point here. Nirmala Sitharaman is going to be the first woman full finance minister to be giving out the budget at 11 a.m. Zafar in the Delhi studio wants to make a quick point, but before that, of course, our eyes are going to be on what she brings out when it comes to the farmers, whether there are going to be any farmers policies. We saw the economic survey come out yesterday. Very quick key points came into that, which clearly showed us the way ahead is going to be this time. Also on defense, we remember what happened because Piyush Goyal has clearly kept a large amount of 3 lakh crores had been kept in the interim budget. We have to see, at that time it was said whether the defense budget will also be increased. These factors too will be taken into account today. Zafar wants to reply to you, so I'm just going to let him reply to you and then I'll come back and make more points. Zafar, yes.
Arnab, as regards to fiscal prudence, I just heard the response of Mr. MR. I want to give my sense that government will definitely follow the fiscal prudence route, what has been for being the stated objective of the government. As far as the government borrowing, that is not going to go beyond that what has already been stated. So worth in terms of fiscal deficit, 3.4%, what is there is going to be there. I don't think that government will really play with the fiscal deficit number.
So you can't be fiscally
but what is important that,
what is important
that government can still, despite having a very small headroom available,
that's
still go ahead with
some. That's contradictory. You can't be saying that I will play by the rule book. And also revive the investment, and there is no private investment happening, sir.
That can be compensated by monetizing
banks are
various
not
assets
ready
available
to
with
lend
the government.
today.
So
Banks are scared to lend. That's the truth of the
many
matter.
assets which can give us enough revenue, at least for a year. And that can definitely address most of the concern which has been being discussed here and the expectation of the middle class. But without compromising with the fiscal policy and the prudence which we are following.
Zafar, this is now, Zafar, I'll take a break. Zafar, I'll take a break, you think about it. One of the other thoughts in my mind is, will there be any tweaks on taxation? We really want to know, because I think the Aam Aadmi deserves a little bit of a tax bonanza. And I think the government can do it. If you're going to open things up, I would say open things up for the taxpayers as well.
Exactly.
Manisha and to all the others who have not come into the program as well, Madhuresh, coming to you right after a very short break.